You know, I'm not just any girl, and it wasn't just any dad. You know, this is Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times. You know, he has his youngest daughter now wanting to box. So he didn't have any of his kids. I don't think he wanted any of his kids to box. And that's, we can go into that later, but that's, as a fighter, I wouldn't want my kids to box either. So it's just one of those things. But for me, I decided that I wanted to start training after I saw women's boxing on television. And I was in school full time, and I had a business. I had a nail salon because I started going to school to learn how to do nails when I was 16. And I built up my clientele, saved up my money. I was subleasing. And I had this whole plan, and I'm a planner. So I was like, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna live on my own, which I did, and I'm gonna focus on, building this business. And all of a sudden I see women's boxing, and I'm like, within myself,
how did you see it?
Okay, so I turned on television to watch a Mike Tyson fight. And I wasn't a big boxing fan, but I watched the big fights, and then here come these women into the ring on the undercard. So I think that was the first time a lot of people saw women's boxing. And that moment, that's when the seed was planted within me. And I remember saying, I want to do that. And I was with my best friend and her father. He said, Laila, those women will take your head off, And I was like, no, I can do it. But then when I went home and the fear and the doubt started to set in, and I don't know if I'd be able to do it, meaning change my plans. I've told everybody, I've said, this is my plan. And then, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? Just all of that. I was a young girl. But that feeling did not go away. So I thought about it for I think about a year. I'm really bad with timelines, but it was about a year. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go find a trainer and start training. And I did it all on my own. I didn't ask my dad for help. I was still trying to figure out if it was something I actually wanted to do, if I had the talent to do, because I knew I was going to be successful with this nail business and becoming an entrepreneur, and boxing was so new for me. So I went to the gym, started training, and at a certain point, my father found out about it, and I had already decided that, yes, I was in fact going to do it. And that's when he asked me, I hear that you came in town, because he didn't live in Los Angeles, and said, I hear that you're boxing and you're going to start fighting. I was like, yeah, I am. And he's basically tried to talk me out of it indirectly. That's how my father, he brings up every negative thing that he possibly can. Well, what happens if you get knocked out? What happens if you get knocked down? The whole world's going to be watching you. And all of my answers are based on, well, when you got knocked down, you got back up. And I don't think I'm going to get knocked out, but if I do, I'm going to ask for a rematch, And I gave him all these answers. It's like, what else could he say? And he knew he was talking to Laila, and he knows Laila is going to do what she wants to do. So he was like, okay, he knew he couldn't tell me not to do it. So we had that talk, and I just said, hey, you're either going to support me or you're not, And he made it very clear that he didn't really think women should be fighting. My father was a little bit of a male chauvinist, and so that was something I was like, I'm not going to try to, change your mind about that, other than I'm going to show you what I can do. I'm going to show you that I can do it. So I started boxing, and needless to say, well, maybe I do need to say it, I did change his mind about it. He was like, wow, you really can fight, women can fight. So he had a whole different, thought in his mind when it came to women in the ring. So. Did
he come to any of your fights?
He did. He was at most of my fights. He didn't make it to all of them just because he was sick and couldn't always be there. But he was there, he was for over half of the fights he was there.
So when he showed up, did he try to sneak in the back, or?
No. Oh, my dad? No.
Right.
He was that. Every time he walked in, it was like, Ali, 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 and he loved it. So
but that's good for you, because then the crowd was on your side.
Well, yeah, but the crowd, what was surreal about my boxing career was just that I felt like I was fighting for both of us, because he couldn't, just with his Parkinson's, and I knew I could see in his eyes he would love to be back in that ring again, and he couldn't. So I felt like I was kind of doing it for him, and he was living through me as well. So when he walked in and that everyone started chanting Ali, and then again when I came out, and I could just, I never really focused on my dad, whether he was going to be there or not, because as a fighter, I like to just really be focused on the mission at hand. I can't worry about who's in the audience, none of that. And then after the fight, I'd always look for my dad, and just kind of see that joy and excitement in his eyes. So my father, first of all, he told me that he had a change of heart. So I changed his mind about not just me, but women in general being able to fight. And then he had to get past, my father's Muslim and I'm not, and a lot of people assume that I am, but that was an issue, just wearing a sports bra and shorts in the ring with him. And it's like, Dad, really? You think that's what you're thinking about? But just being able to watch me in the ring as a fighter and not seeing a woman per se, but seeing a fighter. And he knows that, you have to respect the game. He knows how hard it is to train and to prepare and all of that. And it has nothing to do with being a woman or being a man. So just for him to be able to see past all of that and show me my respect, and at the same time be so surprised, because he wasn't there to see me train. He didn't know what he was going to see. And then to be able to see the way that I was able to dominate. And then, of course, he's like, you're just like me, so. Now you want to take credit, okay.
So, no, if I forget, we're in trouble.
Right. The thing is that the way I approached my career and life is that I never really worried about what my dad thought or what anybody else thought. I worried about what I thought about myself. So for me, I had something to prove to myself first, and I had really high expectations of myself. So with my father, I kind of was just like, I've always been confident, and I know I get that same confidence from him because I had been training and I knew what I could do. I'd already proved to myself that I can do this and I can be a champion, and you're just gonna sit back and you're gonna watch. So for me, I was not really concerned even with him going in because it didn't hurt my feelings. I wasn't like, I can't believe my own father is not, I was just like, look, peace, see you later, I'm about to go do this, and you can come along for the ride or not, So that was one thing that I took the burden off of myself to feel like I had to, please my dad or change his mind. I felt like that was gonna happen naturally, and that's the same way that I've just approached the sport in life. Like it's too much to have to worry about what everybody else is thinking. Like if I can stay focused on what my goals are and being the best that I can be, because that takes so much energy and focus and dedication to begin with, then you can't do anything but change your mind at the end of the day, because it is what it is. We all, if you're honest with yourself, so I think that that's what changes, when people think women can't do something, you see someone do it, they think they can't because maybe they've never seen it before, but as soon as you see it, you learn something new, it changes that information, right? And you're like, oh. So I think right now, my focus is just being the best that I can be and then inspiring others along the way. But I try not to put that burden on myself of I have to do this and I have to do that and I have to please this person. And I think that a lot of times as women, sometimes we do that because we feel, and that's not to say that I don't feel responsible and I don't make smart choices along the way, because I do take being a public person and a role model very seriously. There's opportunities that come up that I have, and I'll turn them down just because of the way it might come off, or just because, the message that it might send. Even though it might be something I'm okay doing, I always have to think about the long-term effect. And I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, but you don't really ever see me with, showing too much or having too much cleavage out. And a lot of people might assume it's because I'm Muslim. I'm not. It's just that I don't like for young girls to feel like you have to pose nude or you have to do certain things, and at the same time, there's some women that do it, and I don't judge them for that. Maybe they choose to do that, but that's not who I am, and that's not the image that I want to send. So when Billie Jean first approached me about being the president of the foundation, I was reluctant and hesitant, because I was like, wow, I didn't even grow up playing sports. And there's so much there as far as just the organized sports and the collegiate sports and all these things, and I just never played it, and there's just this whole vocabulary that goes along with it. I can't even really have the conversation. So I was like, I don't know if I'm the one. And she's like, no, you are the one, because you're that person. We want to get more girls involved in sports, and you're someone who's saying that I regret that I didn't play sports, and you see the importance of it and how it could have, enriched my life, right? So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And of course, then being around all these different women and sitting in board meetings and listening to all the issues is really overwhelming. But the fact that we're in a time when we still see all the disparities, right? Then that means that we need strong women that can stand up and can say something that can inspire others, right? So it doesn't really matter what I did and didn't do, as long as I can have that conversation with people. So yes, now I'm an advocate for sports, even though I didn't play it growing up. I'm like, no, my kids are gonna play sports. I want it's confidence, the confidence building, and what you learn about yourself, the discipline, working as a team, all these things you learn in sports that you can apply to so many different areas of your life. All of these successful women that I've met that said they believe that a large part of their success is because they played sports. You learn so much about yourself and about the world through sports. And as we've been talking about, and I know you guys have been talking about the importance of it and how it kind of plays into society in so many different ways and all of that, and it's true, and I've seen that myself. So that's why I think Billy asked me to be a president of the foundation, and I think I will always be involved with the women's sport, because once you get in, you don't get out, you know. Once you get in, so.
Right, it's like the Hotel California.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, playing sports would definitely have a big impact on the success of individuals in the future. And I just know that with my daughter, I'm raising her to believe she can do anything that she wants to do. She's super feisty, and I like it. Like, that to me is like a positive word in my house. She like has her own mind. Now it's a struggle for me, don't get me wrong, but I always have to remind myself, okay, this is good. I just have to shape her and mold her, because Sydney is like, you know, everything is like, I'm gonna do what I wanna do, when I wanna do it, and she doesn't have any limits on herself. She says, Mom, I came out of here boxing belly, you know, and she's like doing this, and I'm like, I told you, I don't want my daughter to become a fighter, per se, just because of the business of boxing. Like I mentioned, I wish that I would have played sports earlier, because I think I would have been out there with Venus and Serena, or out there on the soccer field, you know, in the Olympics. And I didn't even have the opportunity to go to the Olympics, because female boxing was not an Olympic sport. So men's boxing was. My father got to, you know, go to the Olympics, but I didn't. So it now is, and there's a young girl named Clarissa Shields who won gold. And she,
I think twice.
Yeah, twice.
12
back to back.
and 16.
Yep.
Isn't a movie being made about her life, I think?
I know there's a documentary made on her already, but I don't know if they're doing a movie. But she's turned pro since then, so I love just watching her. She's actually in the weight class that I was in. So I love watching her and just watching how her career is unfolding, and I've tried to give her some advice along the way. But for me, my daughter, like I said, I want her to play sports and get everything that she needs out of it, and if she decides that she wants to be a professional athlete, great. Because I think as parents, you know, you have to be careful not to push your kids in a certain direction. You know, I want them to be open to do whatever it is that's going to make them happy in life, you know, so I'm going to encourage them to find that thing. And yes, we're going to play sports and you have to participate, but you don't necessarily have to become a professional athlete, right? It's just what you take from sports that can help you in so many different areas of your life.
Now, your kids got to know their grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And they knew, but they didn't really understand. Just like when I was a kid, people always ask me, when did you first learn how great your father was or why people loved him? And I can't even really remember the moment. But when I was 8 or 9, you don't really understand. You understand people are coming up to you. Everywhere you go, there's a crowd. It's kind of annoying because you're standing around waiting for a couple hours. You know, you get stuck everywhere. You know, I never wanted to go anywhere with my dad because I knew, like, he loved doing magic tricks and drawing in a crowd. So you're going to be there for 2 or 3 hours watching those same magic tricks. So
did you ever figure out the magic trick?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. He had this one where he would pretend that this, the handkerchief would disappear. So he had a plastic thumb, okay? So he'd have the thumb and he'd say, here's the handkerchief, right? And then he'd kind of take the thumb off and stuff the handkerchief into the thumb and then put it back on. So I saw that and he'd say, whoa, you know, and then as he got older and got sick, the thumb would be the wrong color. Like he would have like a white person's thumb on his right hand. We'd be like, Dad, you know, people could see it, but they would still, you know, oh, okay. Then he had this levitating one that he did where he'd act like he was floating and he really was just on his front toe. So like I knew all of them. Like, so we were just like, oh, you know, as a child, you're just like, oh, this is so corny, you know, but he would also pass out his pamphlets and he was still like, he'd have, you know, about Islam. So he would write his signature on them. He'd spend hours writing his signature so that he could pass them out to people as he met people. So I saw this all the time, but, and I get it now, but as a kid, you know, I didn't ever want to go with him. So I forget the question again.
Yeah, well, it was about the kids and looking up to him. Of course, you lost your dad.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Sure. So my kids knew, but it wasn't until he passed away They really got the opportunity to see, because now they're showing all these specials on my father on television. They went to we went to his memorial service, and they saw all these different people come from it was very overwhelming for them. And then they went to the Muhammad Ali Center for the first time, and really, my son is older, he's 8 now, and he's really, really bright and smart, and he was able to just kind of watch the videos and see the timeline. And I was even amazed, because I know my dad, and I'm not a Muhammad Ali fan, so I haven't read all of his books, the books written about him and all that, but to be at the Ali Center and just see this long wall, this timeline of all of these important dates and all of the things that he's done in his life, just because I never, took the time to really go through. It was amazing to me, and for them to see that and see all those wonderful people get on the stage and talk about him, then I could tell that's when they started to kind of get it. And my daughter had this really special connection, like a spiritual connection with my father ever since she was a baby. My father didn't really speak that much anymore, and towards the end he was in a hospital bed, he was on a feeding tube and all of that. And my daughter, most people or kids are afraid, were afraid because he's shaking, he's got really big hands. And my daughter, since she was a baby, would just go right out to him, hug him, and she'd kiss him, and then she'd just kind of get into the bed with him. And, she'd run back and forth. Like every 5 minutes, she'd go back and visit him and kiss him, and his eyes would just light up because he loves kids, he loves giving kisses. And for her not to be afraid of him, and so it was amazing. It was amazing to see the connection they had. So that has been the hardest thing for me, is Sydney, because she doesn't understand. She says, well, why did Papa have to leave? Why did he have to go to heaven? Why she talks about him still, like at least twice a week. So she knows, but she doesn't really understand why. So it's going to be interesting to see, as they get older, when they really understand and hear the stories of, who he was as a human being. And I think they're going to be even more proud. But my son looks just like him. So my son opened a book the other day and was like, that looks like me. I'm like, I know. So when he was 12, that's what we've been telling you, look just like your grandfather. And I love it because, I'm the youngest. My dad has 13 grandkids, but my child is the only one that looks like him. So I'm like, yeah.
Angeles, make some noise for Casey Veggies.
Yo. How's it going, We Day? How y'all feeling? I'm so excited to introduce our next speaker because she's a good friend of mine. She's a daughter of legendary boxing champion Muhammad Ali, but she's making a legacy of her own. Please welcome undefeated middleweight boxing champion, author, and activist, Laila Ali.
Wait a minute. I had to use this stage, okay? That was just too fun. I felt like I should come out here and do a Beyonce song. How you guys doing? Woo! I am so excited to be here with you all. Congratulations for earning your way into We Day. Isn't this amazing? I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. When I was a little girl, I wanted two things: to stand out from the crowd and do something that would help change the world for the better. I knew from a very young age that both of these were possible because my father taught me that every single person can make a difference by fighting for what's right, being yourself and being passionate about what you stand for. Do you agree? Having Muhammad Ali as a father taught me so much. He was powerful beyond any heavyweight championship belts, and his power came from standing up for what he believed in. Yes. Not only was he able to change people's lives, but he transformed this country and the course of history. While people thought of him as perfect, I saw that he wasn't. He was just Dad, with his own problems, shortcomings, and faults. I learned from one of the greatest men of all times that nobody is perfect, and that's okay. Accepting who I was, imperfections and all, was my first step to finding my gift, of course. Now, I made lots of mistakes along the way, too. When I was in high school, before I'd even heard of women's boxing, I would get in trouble for fighting. I fought for those that were being bullied, and I wanted to defend them. I was always the first person to take off my earrings. Yes. Yes. Thank you. I've been fighting the bullies, okay? Because I was the first person to fight them. Take off my earrings, get down and dirty if I had to. Now that brings me to the first time I saw women's boxing on TV. I was 18, going to school full time, running a nail salon. I had plans of transferring to the University of Southern California Business School. That's when I saw women's boxing on television for the first time, and I knew that I wanted to do it, and I knew that I could. Now, once I started training, I knew I'd made the right decision because it made me happy. Now, my dad used to say that he didn't box just so that he could beat his opponent. He fought for a purpose, and he had a message that he wanted to share, and he needed the platform and the championship title so the world would listen. When you figure out what it is that you want to do in life, go after it with confidence, purpose, and believe in yourself. Surround yourself with positive people who will support you. It doesn't matter if they're not the coolest or popular. All that matters is they care about you and they accept you for who you are. The last thing I want to say to you guys is, as you face life's battles of your own, be fierce, have faith, and don't let anything stand in your way, okay? You promised me that. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day, you guys. It's all about you today.